agenda, and this is something we discussed. There's more to it than meets the eye, and probably we need to dig deeper to get the details. There's noises to the effect that there's a likelihood there's a proxy, and it's about someone trying to get a tender to service NTSA, providing the cameras and the technology to go with it. So it might not necessarily be about the road safety issues, but probably about that tender being affected. It's a conversation to have. Um, we probably need to put our noses down to try and see and find out how true or verifiable that information is. But there's noises around and to that effect. But generally, looking forward to an interesting conversation. And there's a lot going on. The Middle East is still a problem. Airspaces are closed. Iran and the Americans and Israel obviously doing their thing, which is concerning. But then it is what it is. That's how the world. That's what the world has come to. I think that's what I'll say in terms of this conversation as a starter.
Thank you very much, Obed, and I appreciate you giving us some overview of what has been happening in the week. I like the fact that there's a lot of centers happening, and I don't know why you got shy of mentioning Governor Sakaja. It is not news to all of us that Sakaja was a subject of conversation based on his call in onto one of the local media stations. But that on the side, I would love to also just let you know that, guys, we are also streaming on YouTube. So in case you are not able to catch this conversation live, you can always go back and watch the recording. But we will love to really have you in the live session. Now, I'm a bit, concerned with the progress that the country is taking, and I don't know, Obed. There was an incident where one of the women reps from one of the counties was actually calling out former Senator Cleophas Malala. I don't know if you were able to see. Was it banter? Was it pun intended? I don't know if you saw that, Obed. What you make of it?
I'll be very honest. I've seen a bit of a chat around it, but I don't have the nitty gritties, and I would be unfair to comment on it because I don't have the details. But I've had things to the effect that some things had to be done. It's normal political games, so I wouldn't be able to speak to it effectively because I don't have much details because I didn't dig into it.
All right, I'm gonna help you out. So, I'm going to quote. This is Jeremiah Kirinyaga, women rep, who said, Cleo Malala, in case you forgot, where I come from, we milk lions while seated on porcupines. I shall treat you with the contempt you deserve going forward. And actually, this was on her publicly made statements from one of our social media platforms. And in response, then Senator Malala went ahead to say, as for me, I can milk you while you are doing all this. Now, I know there's been a lot of noise surrounding then Senator Malala. Of course, I've also seen an interview whereby Senator Malala is mentioned to have got some good financing while he was constructing his home. And these allegations by Rashid, the then CS, goes ahead to state that, in fact, at one point took Senator Malala to the then house of Deputy President William Ruto. And with that, they were able to, secure some finances to help the then Senator of Kakamega to be able to construct his home. So it was beating logic why Senator Malala will actually call Ruto and his ilk as corrupt, yet he has benefited from proceeds of corruption. And these are very, very serious allegations, Obed, but I think in the world of politics, it's nothing new. But the question then becomes, why are all these, what I would say, dirty linen kind of conversation coming into the limelight as we try to spice up our, menu for election 2027? Obed, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's no honor among thieves. That's what comes to mind. And I think it goes without saying that politicians really have no shame. And I think to the effect that anything goes, anything that heightens the tension and, attracts attention is what they love. It's for the eyeballs, it's for the ears, it's for as many, it's courting attention, which is what politicians are very good at. You begin to see the political season is here and sense goes out of the window.
Yeah.
This is all geared to ensure that the public that is always we love in quotes entertainment. and unfortunately, the one who makes the most noise probably gets the best attention and probably ends up being elected.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. Our political class are playing to what we love. Kenyans will join. It's in the name of banter. It's in the name of doing politics. But I think we've not done politics properly. We have never gotten to a point where we are speaking about real issues and what is affecting the ordinary person. It's about political survival. And also, you need to realize as well that the attrition rates for members of parliament, particularly, a good number of them don't go back to parliament. So it's political season and it's time for popcorns and just enjoy the show. But I hope this time Kenyans vote with their heads, not with their hearts.
I mean, I think a lot of Kenyans have been voting with their heads. The only problem is what goes into that ballot box cannot be ascertained. However, I want to swiftly cross over to something that I also found a bit outstanding. I watched a clip because there's been a challenge. It's called a TikTok challenge, or should I say my circle of friends challenge, which Kenyans have gone an extreme way. But there's this very interesting, what I will say, public figure, Winnie Odinga, went ahead to post her circle of friends. Did you see that, Obeds? And what do you make of that? Maybe I can always, feed you with some information in case you went blank on it.
No, feed me on information. I mentioned a little bit, so I may have missed something on TikTok.
Definitely, you must have missed on that because, well, Winnie Odinga would be considered one of the most consequential voices in the Odinga family, especially when it comes to political inheritance. We know, of course, the then father, Raila Amolo Odinga, the late, had a very close relationship with Winnie. And even when she was eulogizing the late father Odinga, we saw Winnie stand out among the rest. So there has been a lot of squabbles amongst the ODM fraternity. In fact, there are now allegations and, of course, rumors of a possible end of this once a People's Party. This is because the current SG was, quote unquote, forced into office by forcing out the SG of the people, Sifuna senator. And among the clique of Winnie in that short video that she posted on TikTok, actually, begins with the cycle, which is the father, the father, Raila Amolo Odinga, the late. Then goes to the mother. Then there is Fidel, the brother. Then there is one of her sisters. And then there is Junior. And then there is Babu, that is Babu Owino, Embakasi Member of Parliament. And then we have Senator Sifuna in that clip. I think Winnie is communicating more than ordinarily we will ignore in politics. Is she?
Yeah, she is. That's a very cryptic message, and I think it's quite clear. Though she said it publicly when ODM were doing their ODM at 20 in Mombasa and subsequent meetings where Babu was actually not invited. He was amongst the people who didn't get really to speak, but Winnie shared her time. And she's been quite clear. And remember, even at the time Sifuna went to see Ida in Karen, I think he got a hug and he speaking in her native tongue. Mama Ida did say that, Sifuna is a son to Baba, and a son is not just away because the father has passed away. Instead, they need to find a way to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But when you look at what's going on with that, the split orange as it is, they might not agree, but I think it's split as it is. There's a part of people who love the trappings of power, are enjoying what is coming with it.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that somebody was joking that there are people who've never even given 100,000 in a church, or contribution anywhere, are now able to give up to 5 million. And then you begin to wonder who is funding them. So it's quite obvious that somebody is working to ensure that the ODM party is split. And these are antics we're seeing. In terms of democracy in what it is and having a strong parties, that's
Yeah.
what makes democracy better.
Mm-hmm.
But as it looks, and it's quite obvious that the current regime, and in the form of
Did we lose you, Obed?
the president,
Yeah.
has an interest to ensure that democracy is stifled. And this is something that, whilst people might deny,
Yeah.
it's quite obvious that he does not. He has weakened parliament, listening to some of the things that have been. Nowadays, bills are made from State House, they go to the National Assembly. The people who are drafting laws in National Assembly are actually not probably having anything to do.
Mm.
And so it's a question of total control. But that said, Eli, I think it's quite clear that Winnie associates more
Yeah.
with the younger ODM people, and they look at themselves, and in my view, she believes and thinks that this is the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that being the future, she's best aligned with them because they carry the spirit of the late father.
Yeah.
Or at least they try and embody that in their approach to issues. And they have demonstrated that a majority of the young people
Yeah.
are buying into their agenda. And so she's within her rights to state that that's what the people she's talking to or she's talking about are the people who she believes in what they are.
Mm.
But generally, the whole agenda and the interest here by the current regime is it's quite unpopular. Everybody knows nobody likes them. And the disquiet, as much as they don't speak it openly, if the president was so sure that he'd come back and he'd win the elections, he wouldn't be campaigning since he became president. He would be delivering and then expecting people to vote him back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Winnie is saying, other than my family, this is the other family I've chosen for myself. And I do this because I believe in them and because they are the future. And this is the future of the country. And Kenyans are best aligned in this direction. And just it's a very cryptic, strong message for those who can decipher to see what she's trying to say.
Interesting, and thank you very much, Obes, for your, your analysis of that situation. We'd love to find out what you think about the same. So you can simply pick up the mic while you are on listener platform. We might not be able to get you, so kindly pick the mic, and then we can continue this talk. Also see one of our staff reporters is joining us on the X platform. So once you're ready, kindly also just get the mic so that we can be able to see what you're able to cover this week in your brief. We're talking about the issue of politics and current affairs. And Obes, there's something also that came out from one of these, the upcoming by-elections. IBC went to request for more money in order to carry out by-elections in, what is this, Emarua Dikir constituency. That's a very difficult name, but I hope I got it right. Obes, did I? Obed?
Closer to it. I can't even pronounce it. Emur Dikir or something. That's what
Yeah. But anyway, former member of parliament Ngeno, who passed on through a road accident, may his soul continue resting in peace. Emrua Dikir is the name. And looks like the family have actually decided to speak in one accord. And guess who is coming on board as the next potential member of parliament, Obed?
Most likely the wife.
Most likely, or it is the wife. Obed is being too careful. I mean, this is in public domain because it has been discussed. Anyway, I just wanted us to also look at that in terms of what could be the odds. I yesterday passively mentioned about the death of Kones. You remember Kipkalia Kones, who also incidentally died through a road accident. And the wife then, Beatrice Kones, will actually vie in the by-elections, and she'll become the member of parliament. We know world over, politics, it's a strategic positioning and it's a contact sport. The young lady, of course, will be considered a Gen Z, I believe so, because of her age. And that notwithstanding, I know when it comes to politics, we weep, we cry, we mourn as we strategize. Is it a mature move right now, Obets, or politics has no maturity?
politics is about interest. And Eli, I think you're being very, again, generous. I think I've used this phrase quite a number of times on you now. When you look at the current uh, senator for Siaya,
Yeah.
the Gen Z representative who wants power,
Yeah.
he came to power in 1994 after the death of his father.
Yeah.
We have one Moses Mudamba Mudavadi who became a member of parliament after the father passed away. We know of a gentleman called George Haniri who became a member of parliament because of the father. We know the son to Were. It's almost painful to speak as if there are no other Kenyans who can be. So speaking about the wife to Joanna Ngeno, Ngeno, the late member of parliament, you look, he married from the Olentutu community, one that has dominated politics in Narok. And so it's just a continuation of that dynasty. And that means it's like a monarchy of that family now if she becomes a member of parliament. And so it's total domination, which almost means other people cannot be able to get into the space. But it also speaks to what the community thinks and believes about them. And this agenda of Kenyans always feeling, I said earlier, Kenyans sometimes vote with their hearts, not with their heads. We are too emotional. We are not rational. Half the time, you don't become a politician because your father was a politician. It would then translate it like, or the assumption would be that if your father was a doctor, you should be a doctor. It is not the case. And so we've had people who have no capacity by virtue of the fact that their parents were in a certain position, then they become. And so if we go back and look at what's currently, taking place, happening in Parliament, and the quality and the caliber of debate and the ability to debate issues with accuracy and knowledge is bad. The 13th Parliament is an embarrassment, looking at what other people have done before. Even under very bad one-party regime, Parliament was so robust, very powerful and engaging. The current Parliament is terrible, and it's a symptom and a sign of some of these things that we're talking about. Because she might be good at what she does, because we'll give her that chance to do that. But I don't think just by virtue of the fact that somebody slept next to someone, then because of that they become. But then again, we are who we are. 254, factually, because I can tell, just like talking about people who give people grades in a certain way, the reality is there has to be an evaluation by the people whether the person that they are choosing or giving an opportunity has the capacity and the wherewithal to be able to deliver on the promises. The definite thing I'm going to hear is we're giving her 2 more years or the rest of the period so that she can finish what the Mheshimiwa had started. She probably has no clue what he had started. Or if she does, she can't relate to it. But because she must get a job, then she'll be given. I could be asked and told, respect people who are mourning, they are getting into politics, and we can talk about what it is. If the people of Emur Dikir believe that she's the one who's qualified and deserves to represent them, it's their responsibility, but I think the field should be made bigger so that people would have an opportunity to choose from more. Look at Mudavadi today. He does not understand. He's used to being spoon-fed, and because of that, he doesn't question. He's comfortable wherever he's assigned, and he's happy. He's currently probably running the government of Nairobi, the county government of Nairobi. Look at the people like Senator Oburu. He has never had to do anything for himself. So he does not understand why he needs to work so hard. That's why he wants power. Hiyo kiti ndiye anapenda, hiyo ya vice president or deputy president. So anybody you're used to spoon feeding, you deny them. Just like when you go to the zoo, you're told don't feed animals because you make them to lose their natural instinct to look for food. It's exactly what it is. So it is unfortunately a bad thing that we've developed as a country, and especially Africans. You tend to see a sign of one of the political class almost always getting an opportunity. And so maybe it's going to be a cycle. And that's why you had somebody talk about dynasties. And now he's trying to create a dynasty and such things. So it's unfortunate. But there are other Kenyans who can rule, Kenyans who can do better, who probably have better ideas and have not gotten the opportunity. Or maybe because our politics requires a lot of resource and money. Then maybe we find ourselves in that space where we allow those who already have acquired, and by virtue of being members of a certain family, then they have acquired the ability and capacity. Then we let it be. But there could be better Kenyans who can do a better job. I don't think she's the most qualified in my view. Well, again.
All right. And thank you very much, Obed. I think other people who have been watching also and trying to grasp where you're coming from could be having questions or alternatives to what you say. And therefore, that's why we welcome you to have this conversation with us. You know, you talk about a wife. There's a son somewhere who is actually in office by virtue of their father being unlived.
Your Week in Brief with Obed Oriku and Eli Likuyani.
And welcome back. Indeed, this is your Week in Brief, 18 minutes after 9 o'clock. Before we have View 254, just stand by. I want to cross over to our star right, Uncle B, who is joining us on Court FM line. And I would like to, try get some bits and pieces of what he made out of this week in terms of the outlook. Let's start from the local scene, Uncle B. What stood out for you in the news space? And good evening. Welcome. I guess can you hear me? All right. I guess that's not working on his side. Let me just get you 254 before we can cross back over to Uncle B. Let's go to you 254. Good evening once again. 254, how are you doing?
Good evening, Eli.
Oh, I almost thought probably you guys have started to throttle me.
No. I think we're good.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. I've been quite away.
I actually thought so, but I now have proof why. You are eating your property, literally translated. Kula mali yako. Good evening. Welcome. What stood out for you, sir?
Well, should I say the flooding? That's where I should start. I think my biggest disappointment is that post the flooding, our very capable, or if I put capable in quotes, governor went on TV to sort of explain what is happening. And I think my biggest disappointment is that we all could see that nothing was really being taken seriously. So it just starts from the time, he went for the gubernatorial debate with one Polycarp Igathe. So if we all remember well, he was late. It seemed funny, but what has happened all over the place since he became governor? Everything in Nairobi seems to be working late. We are focusing on chapati machines. We put 200 million aside to fix our drainage systems. But then again, here we are. Another torrential rainfall, flooding, people die. And we are not taking it seriously. Maybe it's we are not angry enough or something, but I honestly do believe that there's something wrong, especially in the way our leaders work, if I could call them leaders anyway. But that was the start for me for the week. Then I think it progressed to the change in budget for State House, which sent alarm bells ringing all over the place. And I think for me, unfortunately, I wasn't really surprised because I think there's a lot of for lack of a better word, there's a lot of childishness in this regime. It's who has the bigger toy, who has the bigger resources, and the back and forth that we're seeing between the current regime and the opposition is a game of, we have the resources, we have the power, we have the money, you don't. So it seems like children who are fighting rather than people who are looking for solutions. Because honestly speaking, if anyone would talk about solutions,
Yeah.
we'd really say, okay, one, we can't be talking of austerity when our highest office is consuming double its budget, and it seems normal. Obeds also mentioned the court saying that let the advisors be, so that it doesn't cause disruption in the rendering of service for the president. I mean, how small is Ruto's ego, so that a legal court can appoint jobs that we know are unconstitutional as a political convenience for a person's ego? It's very disappointing, and for me, it sort of puts me in a mindset to say, if we really see what is happening in the United States with Donald Trump, it actually mirrors what is happening in Kenya with William Ruto. They're one and the same. When they sit in front of a camera and say something, 90% of us are just looking for the jokes, because we want to laugh at how ridiculous some of these things they say.
Yeah.
Because anything that William Ruto has said recently, we all know has not come to pass. We've seen now this audit trail coming out through, and for somebody who claims that we've reduced our spending, we've practiced austerity in our country, yeah, our debt ceiling is still rising day and again. And that also brings me to the third thing that raised the alarm in my head, that National Infrastructure Fund, which seems to have more questions than answers. And when I saw Kimani Kuria, MP for, I believe, Molo, come to television and fumble over questions, it reminds me of Reject Finance Bill 2024. Same thing happened. Everything that they do has a legal constitutional question, and it is by no coincidence. So I just feel like this is a serious problem reoccurring. Now, I know this Sifuna wave has come through, and a lot of people like it, and a lot of people are feeling like, yeah, it's the youth now taking over. I have very serious reservations about it, not because of Sifuna, but of course, the characters also with him. Because I think, yes, Sifuna seems like a powerhouse.
Yeah.
He talks very boldly, which is very good. He makes the right questions. But then again, my question is, much as we blame, Sakaja for the failure in Nairobi, Sifuna is the senator for Nairobi. So, yeah, he has some responsibility and roles to carry out as a senator of Nairobi. So we can't just say that the governor is failing and the senator is succeeding. Something has to balance. So the senator also equally has a role to play. So he must be answerable for some of the things that we are seeing in Nairobi County, Nairobi City County. So that being said, my reservation also comes through the fact that the people surrounding him right now, Babu Owino is a person whose character has been questioned before, legally, with his actions about shooting, I believe it was DJ Evolve, much as it didn't become a legal criminal matter. But morally speaking, that was wrong. So he has a morality question standing on his name. Of course, that being said, that also ties into every single opposition leader in a different capacity. So with every single candidate, you have very many questions about them. But for me, I think one of the things that, much as we saw all these bad things happen, one of the highlights for me in this week, maybe it happened on social media, not main media, because main media now seems to be, either bordering on praising this regime or fiercely criticizing them. So it's one or the other.
Yeah.
It's never, very unbiased, filtered information. It's just they either like this regime or they don't like them for whatever reason. But what I really like is that there's a couple of civil activists, the people who are on online social media who've been doing a lot more about talking about why some of these things in this country are going wrong and what they would like people to do. And part of that conversation has become that, we need to stop giving more excuses. We also have a role to play in who we put in those offices. Because just like Obed said, some of these individuals who sit in these offices, I've never seen their achievements. I mean, I saw Pio and I sit on an interview on TV, and when he was told, list us your achievements, he started listing the government office jobs he's held. And that's not an achievement. That's a role that you've been playing. An achievement, for example, is if you're serving in the Ministry of Energy, an achievement is to say, I've lowered the cost of electricity by 10% in 8 months. That's an achievement because you're serving the people of this country by making the cost of energy cheaper, for example. If you're in the Ministry of Roads, you can say, for example, we've been able to reduce the number of road carnages by instituting certain road policies or road infrastructure that make it safer to drive on these roads. Great. That's an achievement. But an achievement cannot be, I was appointed to be, the secretary or the advisor to the president, or I've been appointed in this board on a certain parastatal for this number of years. That's not an achievement. That's a role that you've been playing. And that's the disappointment with all these people, that what they call achievements are actually roles that they've served. And so finally, as I see the mic back, for me, I think current affairs, reality is that the war in Iran is going to hit us. Anyone who's not expecting it must be either sleeping or forgetting which country we operate in. I mean, when anything sneezes around the world, it sort of tends to trigger price increase in Kenya, and it has been like that for the last almost 15 years. So whatever is happening in Iran, much as people don't like thinking about it, it will hit us, especially in Kenya. It is going to exacerbate the frustration of entrepreneurs who import product into this country, because shipping lines are looking at increasing freight costs, changing shipping routes, so increasing marine cover insurance. So all these things will balloon into unfathomable areas, and it will affect us as a country because we might be impacted in shipping in medication, shipping in very critical supplies for what we use in our country. And so those are the realities we face. So for me, I think, we're in a difficult spot as a country. And much as we like saying, we like being positive, because I think one thing I love about Kenyans is we are very positive people. But I think this regime and William Ruto as a president has really tested the patience of Kenyans, has really tested our ability to rethink our choices. So I think the call is very right, for people to rethink how they will vote, people to recall why the purpose of voting is very important in a country, because we cannot see this level of mismanagement and still think that your vote will not count. It definitely will. Yes, it's one vote per person, yes. But that single vote is a very powerful voice that needs to send a very strong message. Because I think I sit in a reality where I said, this is not going to be a one election fix for this country. It's going to be that we need to clean out 60 or 70% of the current ilk of politicians so that we get in 60 or 70% fresh new faces, fresh new people who can come in and have proper conversations and have proper roles, understanding what they need to do to fix this country. Then in another election or two, we clear out all these old guards so that we stop hearing of kingpins and tribalism and all this backward thinking that is not really taking this country anywhere. So for me, yes, I'm happy that there's been an advancement for those social media activists who keep having that conversation. I'm happy that a young man has taken that fight personally. I think I can say his name. I don't know him personally, but I've seen him even when I was outside of the country working. I've seen he's doing a very good job. I think he's called Dero Reacts or something on Instagram, but he's a very, very eloquent young man who's doing it right. And I think that is what I hope everyone tries to understand, that the conversation is no longer to be had in secret. It's supposed to be had in public. So that when we start having these conversations, both me, Obeds, Eli, I saw Marabu on the space, we can all have a creative conversation to say, hold up. Yes, when we disagree with William Ruto, it's not a personal thing. It's a policy thing. It's a constitutional issue. It is what is good for our country and our people, not for the convenience of somebody's ego, personality, or otherwise. But that's I think the highlight for me. I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling optimistic, and I hope everyone feels the same way. Back to you, Eli.
Thank you very much, 254. I hope the optimism will spread across the room, because looks like it hasn't been that much for a lot of us. When you look at the floods, when you watch politicians lie straight in your face, when you read on news about the happenings across the globe, you question and wonder, where exactly are we headed in 2026? It's only but March, lakini mambo inazidi kuchemka. Our sport writer and actually our staff writer, Bonnie, is here with us. And Bonnie, if you can hear me, good evening to you.
Good evening, Eli. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, but you're quite low on your mic. I don't know why that is the case.
Okay, is that better?
That's much better. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Good evening once again, and to everyone, good evening.
Yes, kindly just get closer to your mic. It's a bit muffled.
Yeah, it is close actually.
All right.
Hope it's better.
Good. So tell us, how has the newsroom looked like this week, and what stood out for you locally?
Well, a lot has been happening actually, but locally, what really stood out is the issue of the Tanzanian tycoon buying up Nation Media Group. So, Rostam Aziz,
But I'm afraid I might need to call you back. We are having a struggle to get you on the mic. Let me try put you through a call in a few, and then we come back. In the meantime, let's cross over to you, Western. But hold on that thought on the issue of the Tanzanian tycoon who decided it's time to take over the Aga Khan shares. Western, good evening to you. How are you doing, sir?
I'm okay. How are you doing, Eli?
I'm doing quite well, and great to have you here.
Thanks. Well, I'll begin from where you left off. I think that magnet is Aziz or something. Well, I listened to him. He actually gave Kenyans a lecture. It was a lecture. He did. Because he said he spoke to the Aga Khan many, many years ago in the early 2000s. That in the event that you let go of your shares in your media entities in this region, let me know. He said that. Let me know. Because he had invited the Aga Khan into his businesses in Tanzania. And he said, I hope you'll reciprocate. When time comes, we say you want to let go of your investments in East Africa. And he called him and said, I'm leaving. Are you ready? And he said he was friends with Uhuru Kenyatta before he came to know this current president. He said that his businesses in Kenya, all the licenses were issued to him by the Uhuru Kenyatta regime, if not Uhuru Kenyatta. He said all those things because people asking him, what is it that he's looking for in Kenya? He seems to be too close to the Kenyan president. He said no. He's friends with all kinds of people in Zambia, in Uganda, in Kenya. That is it, And then he said, we have to learn that we can't do it alone in East Africa. We can't. For us to be big, we must forge alliances with the rest of the member states within the East African community. Fact. A fact. Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, all of them. Fact. South Sudan. He said it. Wakenya msome nyakati. Ishara za nyakati. He even went into Swahili. Msome ishara za nyakati. Change your mindset. You're not too special. He said that. You are not too special. Well, I mean, I admired his boldness, because what were those questions he was being asked? What were they? What were they? And even in Nation Media Group, he's joining a media group that is already run by a politician, Uhuru Kenyatta. Isn't Uhuru Kenyatta a politician? He is a politician. So that is it. I think he was bold, he was candid, and he said things that it was high time somebody said it, and especially from Tanzania. Yeah. It was high time. Yeah. There's this thing of Kenyan exceptionalism. It's perverse, and it's high time we just let it go. Eli, the thing about democracy is that, again, we cling on things that don't hold any water. You see, if you just follow around the international news, you just follow what's happening. Like, democracy has no place in the current world. Yeah. It has no place. That thing called democracy, it has no place. In fact, Jeffrey Sachs, one of the leading commentators on some of these things, says it's a senseless word. It's not even sensible. It's a senseless word, democracy. And you can add on human rights. You can add on free, fair, and credible elections, those kind of things. They are meaningless. Because Israel is considered as a democracy in the Middle East. It is. Those other ones are theocracies, totalitarian regimes, what have you, very backward regimes. See what they are doing. This is a democracy. US is a democracy. They characterize themselves as the leading democracy in the world. As in, everybody should aspire to be like the US. See what they are doing. See what they are doing. Look at what they are doing. Committing mass atrocities. Serious atrocities, and justifying. Britain is a democracy. See what they are doing. Aeroplanes are landing in the military bases and loading bombs to go and kill people. This is a democracy. It is. Canada is a democracy. Australia, Germany, go on. What is this notion about democracy and elections that we just believe in? What is it? No one believes in those things. No one. Other than Kenyans, for some bizarre reason, no one believes in democracy. No one believes in elections. No one believes in human rights. No one believes in the rule of law. And you can see what's happening. So, vote. I hear a lot about vote. Your vote will count. Well, it may not count. Let me just put it to you clearly. It may not count. In the world where we are, you see, in Africa, let me put it to you. African countries yield when they get pressure from elsewhere, not from their citizens. They only yield when they get pressure from elsewhere, their former colonial masters and the US. If that pressure is not coming, they cede nothing. They don't cede anything. They don't yield anything. If they're threatened, we'll arrest you. We'll ban you from traveling. We're going to freeze your assets. They have lots of assets, those African politicians in the West. Now, they cede space. In the absence of that, and I can tell you where we're going, that's not going to happen. No one is going to threaten anyone who steals elections in Africa. No one is going to threaten anybody who brutalizes his citizens in Africa. No one. Yeah. Because Museveni will just tell you, where do you get the moral authority? You are bombing people in Gaza, bombing people in Palestine, bombing people in where? In Iran. What moral authority do you have to tell me on how to run my country? Get lost. It's going to tell them that, or whoever it is. So we have to recalibrate our thinking, not just within Kenya, within the broader global environment. We tend to be too narrow. What the Tanzanian business person was telling us, we're too narrow in the way we read things. soma ishara za nyakati. That's what he told us. Wakenya wasome ishara za nyakati. Are we reading ishara za nyakati vis-a-vis what's happening around us globally, continentally? I think we are not. Nairobi, Eli, was not meant to be a county. Your politicians are narrow. You know, they will tell you that's why it's 47. It came as an afterthought, and it wasn't meant to be a county. Nairobi should have been given some status, not a county, because it's embedded in politics and elections and what have you. So service delivery will suffer. Service delivery will suffer. It doesn't matter whether you get rid of Sakaja or not. Gidero was there. Sonko was there. Who else? These problems were there. So you will not change a thing as long as it remains what it is. That people can compete for elections on who to become governor. Elections, politics will take center stage. Service delivery will go to the back burner, if at all. So it was not meant to be a county. Just like Addis Ababa in Ethiopia is not a state. It's not a capital of any state. It's a federal capital of Ethiopia, which is a federal state. Abuja is not a state in Nigeria. Neither is it a capital of any state in Nigeria. It is the federal capital of Nigeria. The same way Washington, D.C. in the US is not a state, is not a capital of any state. It is the federal state of the United States of America. Special status. Perhaps the people who drafted this constitution should have gone to find out the logic behind that. Coming here to tell us that Nairobi City County, even the naming itself is just problematic. Nairobi City County, what does that even mean? Even just the naming nomenclature itself is faulty. What is that? Nairobi, it's either Nairobi County or Nairobi City. Nairobi City County, what is that? Eli, the president is ahead, and I'm saying he's ahead because he thinks long term. He thinks long term. The ICC is trying to see whether he can push a Kenya to the ICC. But it's not the ICC is interested in, because the ICC is useless. It's just a useless body. Because it's part of the UN system. It's useless. Netanyahu has been indicted. He just shows it the middle finger. Middle finger. Repeatedly. You can indict me as many times as you want. I couldn't care less. What can you do to me? Nothing. So it's useless in that sense. But the president wants to cover ground, He wants to cover ground. Because he knows the elections come next year, the presidential election will go to the Supreme Court. So he does not want to be caught off guard. He does not want to be caught off guard. Like Donald Trump, he wants to be sure of the composition of the Supreme Court of Kenya. So these people keep us telling us, oh, the law. Like, no, the law loses to politics. Not just in Kenya. I keep on saying here, all over the world, the law will lose to politics. But such is the case historically. So he knows. People will go to the Supreme Court, will contest next year's presidential elections results, and he does not want to be caught off guard. A politician. So you say about the law and what have you, let's see. He wants to, at least, by the time those elections are held, at least five justices of the Kenya Supreme Court. He's so sure of them. Five. Then as I yield, Eli, I'm saying, how come, South Africa took Israel to the ICJ, International Court of Justice, over genocide in Gaza. Yeah. Well, many countries have joined South Africa. The most, humorous thing is that only Libya in Africa has joined South Africa. None. No other African country has joined South Africa. None.
Interesting.
Zero. So, what do we stand for? I mean, what do we stand for? We have no position on anything. Zero. So we have no agency. We global affairs move and we watch by. South Africa is an African country. How can we not support them? How can we not?
Weston, I think I pick it from that, and I appreciate what you're saying, because if you don't set the rules, then you cannot be able to influence anything. I think that's what I'm picking from what you're saying, and there is evidence to that effect. And the fact that Africans stand for nothing, it means they fall for anything.
Absolutely.
So, though I do say, and maybe this is just a conversation, probably just to try and grow this conversation. It is possible that societies can transform themselves when they understand what is at stake, and the fact that maybe the current political class thinks or tends to think forward, and what you're speaking to and alluding to is actually factual, to the extent that you can see the incumbents in Africa tend to find a way, because Ruto realizes that a contest will be, and it will be about legalism or issues to do with legal issues. He'll find a way around it, and he's just trying to be clever and go ahead of the people. Very important. But I think it's important that if there is an awakening of some sort, and I would sound like wrong, but to see a wave that came in 2002, but more informed, not out of emotion. I think, because what I've said is half the people vote out of emotions and not necessarily logic, or to understand what it is, then probably there'll be a shift of the needle towards a direction that people are looking for. I'll ask you to hold your thought. And I think there's a conversation to have, and a theoretical one, in terms of what politics is and how it can be done. I would like to have Boniface, give us what he thinks of this, what he picked out, then I'd come to Marabu Stokes. But I'm loving the way the conversation is going, and especially what you've opened up with, to the extent that we need to start looking at maybe it is re-engineering, looking at how Africa or Kenya can start to think its own form of governance that works for the Kenyans and in the best way, because after all, everybody in the world has their own way of doing things, and politics always wins against anything. And I think I agree with you, Weston, there. Absolutely. So, Boniface, welcome. And I hope this time we're able to get you clearly. Nice to see you, Wodalego. Very good to see you, and Sam. Bonnie?
Good evening, Obes. I hope you can hear me now. I've tried to change my machine.
You are much better than you were last time, so we'll allow you to speak.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening once again. And very quickly, I'll just go through the items that are noted down. So the previous speaker spoke well about the Rostam issue, so I don't think I'll go through that again. But the other thing that really caught my eye was the issue of Africa CDC and the European Union CDC by signing an MOU. So this MOU was signed on Tuesday in Addis Ababa with the aim of fostering preparedness, surveillance, and workforce capability for healthcare workers in Africa. So the partnership is a 5 years program, and it's going to work with all the member states of the African Union. And then the second issue, this is a tragic news. The ex-Harambee Stars coach, Engin Firat, passed away in Istanbul. It's reported that he died of cardiac arrest at the Istanbul airport. For those who are football fans, if you remember, he coached Kenya from 2021 to 2024 when he resigned after he failed to take Kenya to the African Cup of Nations. And after that, it's when Benny McCarthy.
Well, I don't know if it's me. I can't hear Bonnie.
I see his mic is muted, Bonnie. If you can unmute and proceed.
Bonnie? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. You are just talking about McCarthy?
Yes. So McCarthy took over from him after he resigned, but by the time he left, Harambee Stars had played 23 matches, won 7, drew 7, and lost 9. So may his soul rest in peace. And then I'll go to the international scene where there's a lot of distrust or mistrust between the US and Russia. I just saw today President Trump accused President Putin of helping the Iranians with surveillance and helping them to hit targets of the Americans and the Israelis. And then there's also another issue where the Iranian team, the women's football team, they just come from the Asian Games and en route back home, but via Australia. So the Australian government managed to convince some of them to seek asylum because in one of the matches they failed to sing the national anthem, and then there was fears that there'll be backlash back at home. So, but up to now, at the time of sharing this, a number of them are rescinded the asylum that they sought in Australia, so they'll be heading back home. And then the last issue, or second last, Russia, amidst the ongoing issue in the Middle East, Russia is now suddenly the go-to country because everyone wants to trade with Russia right now. The Strait of Hormuz closed. The European Union is conducting Russia. They want the gas. The US wants the oil. India wants the oil. China wants the oil. So you can see the US has announced that it's going to ease sanctions against Russia. So which is a big win for Russia. And then lastly, Russia has set up a motor vehicle assembly plant in Addis Ababa. So lately, Addis Ababa has been winning big, everything big in Africa, the largest fleet, the largest airport, So now they've set up a plant in Addis Ababa where the Russians will be building heavy-duty trucks and a number of SUVs. So that's all from my end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bonnie, for giving us the roundup. But before I can release you, you talk about Russia becoming almost the to-go-to partner. US is trying to temporarily ease in some of the sanctions, I believe so, on Russia in order to access the very golden oil from Russia, or the gas. But they are also at the same time accusing Russia of facilitating some of the intelligence collection to give Iran an upper hand. Where does this place Russia, US, Iran politics, geopolitically rather? Bonnie, what's your reading in this?
Okay, thank you, Eli. So they say I was reading an opinion today. Again, it's an opinion, so it's not like it's conclusive. So I was reading an opinion in one of the top journals, global journals. So they were saying now that everyone is going back to Russia, and Iran does not want to negotiate. So how long can the war go? If it goes on for long, then Russia will. But if Iran decides to end, then Russia's win will be short-lived. So in short, they are saying as long as Iran is not willing to negotiate, then they have no option but to go to Russia. And of course, Russia will have to take advantage of it. And then the issue of mistrust. I don't know how they're going to maneuver that. I don't know if it's just propaganda. It's in the middle of war, anything can be said. Because initially, as of last week, they are saying it's China that was giving all those points that are being hit, satellite images to Iran. And then right now, the narrative has shifted to Russia. So we'll wait and see what happens out of this.
Yeah, Bonnie, just taking on the issue of Russia, Iran, and let's not really Russia, but there is the issue of Israel. We have Iran, and we also have US in this escalation. The UN Security Council adopted a resolution 2817 of 2026 condemning Iranians' egregious attacks against Gulf states as Middle East violence rapidly continued to spiral. Being that the UN has also been fingered for taking a backseat in a lot of these issues that are happening across the globe, what do you make of that resolution, Bonnie?
Honestly speaking, the resolution was, for me, I'd say it was biased because, first of all, you need to see what was the root cause of this. Like, how did the war start? Was the aggressor? They only accused the person that was defending themselves, and they failed to accuse the person that started all this, that is the US and Israel. And of course, other countries will just follow suit, but you saw China and Russia, who have veto powers, they started to abstain from taking part in the vote, but every other country voted for it. So, I mean, they should have started with what was the root cause of this and who started this. Because in the case of when Russia started the war with Ukraine, that was the case. Russia was seen as the aggressor, and action was taken against them. But because these are the big boys who are bowling, I mean they're untouchable. Like the previous speaker said, the UKs and the likes, those are the democracies. But for the rest of us, we have to follow what they have to tell us to do.
Yeah. And just just okay. Go ahead, David.
No, I just think Bonnie is alluding to what already that has been canvassed by Western, which is quite true. That we don't set the rules, and the UN is a very ineffective body at an international stage, and so the weak must suffer what they must. So it's nearly impossible to be able to push an agenda. But yes, they will do what they have to do, but really mean nothing about it, and they not even affect what they're saying. It doesn't matter.
Indeed, it doesn't matter. But when I was listening through, and Bonnie, thank you very much for that. Overview of what has been happening and what stood out in your view. There is also the aspect of Iran saying we are in this until the end of it, and this is courtesy of the first official speech that the new supreme leader Mojtaba Khamenei gave, and vowed to avenge the martyrs and keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, according to his plan as the new supreme leader. I don't know if I should be asking this question. Does this in any way show that the current supreme leader should be put on the watch list? Because we saw Israel, and that is through Netanyahu, stating that if he was an insurance agent, he wouldn't sell a policy to either of these guys. Quickly on that, Bonnie. Bonnie.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Eli. Yes, I saw the remarks, and earlier today there was a procession in Tehran, and some of the top leaders were in that procession of the Quds, and in the video that I watched, an Israeli bomb just exploded close by, and no one ran. They are all watching as it came from the skies. So yes, I think based on the matter story, they are ready to die for their country, and nothing really worries them, because they believe there's an afterlife and they're going to be rewarded. So I believe they're ready for whatever comes their way. They're ready to. That's why one of them was saying, for them, they're not hiding in bunkers.
Oh, I think we're really having a very weak line from your side, Bonnie. Bonnie, if you can hear me, you're really having an interruption on your line.
They're ready to face the consequence action against Israel.
Oh, all right. Looks like.
Can you hear me, Eli?
Yes. I think I lost some connection there. My apologies.
Not so sure, Bonnie, if the rest can hear you, but Eli, are you able to hear what Bonnie is saying?
Yes, I heard him, and I almost lost him in a few minutes.
Maybe, Bonnie, I'll hold you where you are. I'll try to fix the issues. I think there's a connection issue. Let's allow Marabu Stroke to, have a bite on the conversation. Marabu, what's your take generally on what's going on in terms of politics and the current affairs in the country? And what has stood out for you in terms of this week and generally about the country?
Well, greetings, Obed Mizani. Am I coming through?
You're loud and clear?
Yes, sir, 100%.
So we've been speaking about. So Iraq is being supported by Russia, especially in targeting reconnaissance. But the United States is really pulling our legs, because the United States last week had asked Zelensky and Ukraine to help them target Iran. So in response to this, the Iranians asked Moscow, Putin, to help them. I don't see the reason why the United States is complaining that Putin is joining when they asked his nemesis to support them. So equity, you must come with clean hands, very clean hands. We have had the Ayatollah, the new Ayatollah Mojtaba, say that he's not going to stop until the price of fuel gets to $200 per barrel. And I think he knows that once this happens, then the war is going to become unpopular in the United States, and the MAGA Republic is going to ask Trump to stop fighting because it's going to be expensive for them. At the same time, you find that Trump is looking at this as a blessing, because higher oil prices is more profits to the producers, and the United States, being one of the biggest producers of oil, then gets profit. We've also seen the Western countries promise to release their reserves, over 400 million barrels, reserves that they've held since '89, which are going to be more profitable for them, because remember, when they bought these reserves, the price of oil was at the lowest, and right now they're releasing it when the price of oil is about $150 per barrel, so they're making profit. So this war is not bad for some people. Some people are actually making money out of this war. And for some people, the more this war runs, is the more money they're going to make, right? So we're not the same. We're not the same. There are people who actually plan for this war. They have contingencies for this war, and they know how they're going to benefit. You know, the weapons military industrial complex is going to benefit out of it. The only people not going to benefit out of this war, apparently, are the Iranians, you know, because they are the ones who are suffering on the ground. We saw today a military store tanker, which is used to refill airplanes, fall from the sky. And the US is saying that it was not shot, but we had the Houthis say that they shot it down. So the people who are going to lose out of this violence in Iran are the Iranians themselves, and it would be best for them if the war was to stop. But with a new leader, having killed his father, his wife, his kid, you would understand why he's not eager to stop this war at any time soon. Remember, as a new leader, the Ayatollah has to prove himself as deserving of the position, merit the position. So he has to go harder than his dad. So he's been put in a position where he has to prove himself. And looking at the markets, how the markets are reacting to the violence, especially when the Strait of Hormuz is closed right now, I think he has a upper hand if he remains to be alive longer. So I think for him, it's better to keep on fighting than to surrender. But when I come locally, now is where we have a lot of issues. We had floods the other day, and we saw Governor dial up Citizen TV during live proceedings. Ended up speaking like a juvenile on issues that affect a lot of people. And the problem with this administration is this exactly, that they're so competitive that they forget that they are the servants. They're the people supposed to serve us. We need about 20 billion to stop this flooding situation. And Sakaja cannot commit 20 billion to stop flooding. Yet we can commit 140 billion to build a stadium. The stadium is in the place where the flooding occurs. It doesn't make sense, right? So I think in terms of priorities, is that the current regime is tone deaf, and they're so combative, so competitive. Anything you tell a leader today, they just tell you that William Ruto is going to win, which it is beside the point. We want services. We want what we pay for. Whoever is going to win, regardless. So they've put themselves in a position whereby anything that you question is you're met by this you cannot stop this regime. This regime is going to win. We're going, but how is it that somebody who came democratically, and this is where I would like to ask Western, when he says that democracy is a failing system, how is it that somebody who was elected and came to power through a democratic exercise then turns against democracy itself and pronounces that democracy does not work? I would respect a dictator who took over power through junta, military coup, because that would be deserving of them. But if you took part in a democratic exercise elected by the people, and then after that you betray democracy itself, I think they underestimate the age that we live in. Many people above 45 would have no problem with this. But the young generation of Kenya today, I don't think are going to swallow it. Whether you win, whether you rig, whether you do what comes after that is something you cannot control. And this time there's no Raila Odinga to hold your hand. When the youth go back to the streets, you forget that the power that is held by the masses overwhelms the power of the state. You forget this. You forget June 24th, what happened, and how you had to go and call people to support your government from crumbling. You forget this very quickly, and you forget that it can happen anytime, at any moment, that the same youth are still alive, facing the same challenges, and you forget this very fast. And that's why you can mock democracy. Yet it is the only thing that is sustaining you, your wealth, your family, right? So have respect for the people, because once the people lose their respect for you, then that state authority that you think you own, that wealth you think you own, is not going to protect you. And I take people back to Nepal, Bangladesh, and you see what happened. And you see a politician begging the youth not to destroy his property, begging the youth not to kill them. They didn't see it coming. No, they thought that democracy is them. They thought that they have the power, that they could rig election and nothing is going to happen. So do not underestimate the vigor and the power of the youth when they want change. Do not underestimate it, because they will do anything to anybody to get whatever that it is that they want. So it's very, very dangerous, especially when I hear people telling us that we are going to rig it. Then what happened? Then what? Then the youth just look at you and say, you rigged it? You think that is what is going to happen? Because it happened in Tanzania and Uganda. Kenyans are a different breed of people. They don't mess around when it comes to their future. And I hope the politicians really understand it. That yes, you got the power, but it can be taken away anytime by the people, because the real power belongs to the people. Lastly, as I learned, Obed, issues of SHA, I think we talked about it. I've seen a woman get paid for delivering multiple times. I don't think we have to convince somebody that SHA is not working or whether it's working. What we want is accountability. That when the Auditor General gives out a report and says that money has been lost here, You're not going as a president to mock the Auditor General and start in a public function explaining that 52 billion cannot be lost, because if it was lost, then we wouldn't be having the system itself. The Auditor General is a constitutionally set up institution to audit the government. And that is the only work they do. That's the work they're paid to do. It's about time that we take the Auditor General report seriously, because we're losing money. We have public assets being sold. Auditor General raises up, calls it out, but still nothing happens. So we really have to be careful about our country, Obeds, Eli, Mizani, because this is the only country we got. Politician can run away to Dubai. It's about the leaders and the people. The leaders have the means. The people don't. So we, the people who don't have the means, should care more about this country than the politician. Thank you very much for the time, and God bless.
All right, Obes, looks like we should be thinking what to do next in terms of wrapping up. But I see we have quite some hands up. Just attention to those of you who are watching on TikTok. I think the conversations that are political are very much censored on that channel. For that reason, you might be losing the connection to the show. You can continue listening in through our Kot FM website, that is kotfm.co.ke. You can equally listen through by tuning into our that is Mizani 254 broadcast, or simply go to our Mizani 254 at Mizani 254 on X. That is the current X space. That said, I would love to go to you, 254 for Life. Your hand is up, and welcome to your Week in Brief.
Kot FM. Let the music play.
254 for Life, go ahead.
What Marabu said, and I know much as Western has spoken eloquently about status quo of what is happening. I think there's also some realities that also come out, in the world that we live in, because from the global perspective, everyone now really understands, what bullying is. This is international bullying, because you have Western said, Netanyahu is guilty of crimes against humanity. We cannot run away from that. But yes, there's no action being taken against him. But he's bullying people. Whatever the US is doing is killing innocent people in Iran. Whatever Iran is doing by bombing all the neighboring countries is killing innocent people. All this is wrong, yes. But two wrongs don't make a right. So if today, unfortunately to say, if we sit back and say, okay, this is the status quo, this is normal, and we accept that normal, we might as well end up in a society where certain irregular things become normal, which is why, for example, in a society like the US, where mass shootings happen every single quarter of the year, people find it normal because as a society, they accepted that as to be the norm. In Kenya, young people came out to these streets and said one thing, that they want accountability. And if William Ruto believes that status quo is supreme and that democracy doesn't matter, then he wouldn't be on podiums every single opportunity in front of microphones talking about what his plans are. Because at the end of the day, if he really was very confident about his win in 2027 or his future, therefore speaking politically, what's the point of coming to waste all this time and waste all these resources, calling people to State House, handing over money, giving out money? He's not philanthropic. We know he's not. So for me, it's just to say, in terms of current affairs, I think people have to come back to a certain stark reality that, unfortunately, we are the only ones who are going to save ourselves. There's no, I've said this before, Eli and Obed. I've said this in previous spaces. There's no American who's interested in how a Kenyan lives. Truth be told, there's not even a Kenyan who worries about how a Tanzanian lives. These are facts of life. I care about me and my family. That's a fact we have realistically in Kenya, which is why something funny you notice is you find a road accident happening on the road, 60% of the people who walk past watch and say, Washe, and move on. 30% of those who remain are looking at opportunities to get something for free. And there's only 10% who are willing to help. That is a reality we know to happen. So I think in our society, we have been so selfish because, unfortunately, to say, if you don't sleep hungry, you don't understand why the cost of living is an issue to some Kenyans. We had a conversation about privilege in a previous space, and it was very true that certain communities in our country have been privileged by proximity to power. But if today we take the same stand and we say, now that I'm from this community that is close to power and we are benefiting just like others did before, isn't that a cycle repeating itself? Wouldn't we be having this conversation in the next 50 or 60 years from now? And that's a reality we must all face. And now, one of the things that is fighting this hard reality of proximity to power, or that kingpinship age of long time ago and colonialism, is that this Gen Z, this young generation, Gen Alpha, they all come from what we call blended families. So people come from different nationalities, forget even tribes, nationalities. These are people who come from blended families. So because they come from blended families, they really do not understand what it means to be a Kikuyu. They really don't understand what it is to be a Luya. They don't understand what it is to be a Maasai or a Kenyan or all they understand from the basis of what is required, number one, is accountability. They can recognize racism because that is still alive everywhere, but they can really recognize the fact that people need to be accountable for what is happening. So today, if we are very honest with ourselves, yes, we understand the status quo. And yes, we might think that, oh no, this 2027 thing, votes might not count, as Weston said. But the reality is, people need to start questioning it, and questioning it consistently until we get people who are able to fix a system, who are able to stand up and be counted. Because unfortunately to say, even what that Court of Appeal has done today is brought in back that conversation of juris pesa, and I can bet you anything, it's going to be a now real talk in the next 1 or 2 weeks. It's going to happen. Simply because, a court of law cannot sit and say that we are making a decision because of political convenience. And unfortunately to say, I find that bench that did that was unfortunately making an incompetent decision. Yes, you want to sound politically correct, but it is morally wrong. You cannot have people who earn from taxpayers in offices that illegally exist. Same thing like the Prime CS's office. We all know it's unconstitutional, but we're going to sit here and say that this person has sway and influence and a voice in the decisions of this country. That is morally wrong, even of us when we accept such to stand. So for me, my expectation would be, one, people need to start questioning some of these decisions made even by the judges. Simply because in a society when people demand accountability, accountability doesn't only apply to William Ruto, it also applies to all of us in individual capacity. So in whatever you do, even in your own house, you are accountable for certain things, which is why you pay your bills on time. Otherwise, services are cut off. But in politics in Kenya, we see a lot of jokes. We are being told about alarming numbers. There are now people who are talking about understand what a billion means on social media. And yet, again, we don't seem to be angry enough to say, no, something is wrong. Yes, there's the status quo. But that status quo, the reality is, it is not functioning for us Kenyans. It is not functioning. And that is the basic point. So for me, yes, all these personalities can come and change and do whatever. But if our system of thinking does not align us to a direction where we say we want people who can be accountable, then it really doesn't matter. All these conversations about status quo, all these conversations about what is going on around the world will keep on happening, which is why forget what Iran did or did not do. Doesn't it seem ridiculous? And maybe in my thinking, ask those parents of those US soldiers who've been killed in that Iran war. Ask them if they really feel those lives were worth lost. That's a question I ask myself. Because the person who sent them to war is busy talking on TV, busy on podiums, making so many jokes, and he looks like a laughing stock every single time he speaks. And that's why I said he is similar to William Ruto, because every time William Ruto speaks, I find myself asking myself, am I really listening to somebody who understands what he's supposed to do as a president? I keep asking myself that question. And it's not an insult. It's just a very simple question I ask, because it's the same question I ask of every single member of parliament, every single woman rep, every single senator and governor. Because for me, I want them to really understand, you asked for a job. Did you first understand what that job entails? And if so, if you understand what that job entails, don't be making a mockery by coming on TV and saying, this is a 100-year problem that cannot be solved within 3 years. No, 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 no. Sit back and tell us, okay, fine. We have seen the failures. We've tried X, it's not happening. We've tried hiring a green army to clean our drainage system, it's not happening. But what can we do going forward so that we do not lose another 33 lives if El Nino hits us in the next 2 months, 3 months, or even 3 years? That is the conversation we want to have. Then we can possibly sit back and say, we are working. Anyway, that's just me. But my thinking is accountability should be our thought process. Thank you. Back to you, Obed.
Thank you, 254. Don't mean to rush you, but we are chasing the clock. Let me allow Weston to make his remarks and probably conclude as we look at winding down.
Obed, so some of these things, if not all of them, they register when you look at them dispassionately. Well, that's how scholars are trained. You don't immerse yourself in issues that you're analyzing. You want to make sense of them. Look, I'm looking at the quality of democracy globally. I'm not looking at Kenya. Quality of democracy globally, quality of democracy in Africa. It's been taking a knock in a couple of years, taking a knock. And you can go and check on Afrobarometer. They do surveys all over Africa periodically on governance, on democracy, rule of law, those things we talk about here. And people are losing faith in this thing called democracy. Whether it's in Ghana, whether it's in South Africa, whether it's in Zambia, whether it's in Botswana, countries that are always regarded as models of democracy in Africa. Citizens of those countries are losing faith in democracy. They're asking, what is it? After I voted and my material conditions don't change, what is it? What does the vote mean? What does it mean? And they're asking those questions quite robustly, because democracy doesn't make any sense if it does not propel you forward as far as the quality of life is concerned. It makes no sense. If all that you do is to go take a vote and then wait for the day of voting and go and cast that vote and then go home. And then you whine and whine. That is a ritual. It's a ritual. You live in an electoralism. It's an electoralism where elections are held, but those elections don't transform anybody's life. That's what I'm talking about. So it's not about whoever came into power through democracy. What, in any case, there's something fundamentally flawed in Kenya where, you know, we've got politicians from the same stock. As in, there's no difference in thinking among the Kenyan political elite. Isn't that something fundamentally flawed? That the options you have, really, well, the political parties read differently, but the thinking of the people who are running for election is the same. So what options are those? Is the same. What are those options? They are not options. So there was no option in 2022. There will be no option in 2027. There was no option the other day. Why? Because of the thinking of the Kenyan political elite is the same. And that's why when you come to some of these spaces, Obed, Eli, you find that some people are reactionary and radical at the same time. How can you embody those two attributes? You are reactionary, and at the same time you are radical. Can you see how schizophrenic that is? It's not possible. But how do I tell that you are reactionary? Because of the way you read your economy. I will tell that you are reactionary. In as much as you're shouting at the government people, I will listen to you. Your analysis, your reading of your economy, your material conditions, and how to get out of the morass in which the country is in, I will conclude that you are reactionary. But you will think you're radical. You are not radical. Then Eli Roberts asks you, in a country that is so polarized along so many fronts, fault lines, ethnically, in terms of religion, region, minority groups, class, poor, rich, democracy cannot find traction. I can tell you. You can't exercise democracy in such a country. It's not possible. It's not. Those fault lines will militate against democracy. And what you will have will be elite pacting. As I keep on saying, elite pacting. UDA will sit, or whatever the other formation, and they will dictate for you the way forward. They will dictate for you the way forward. That is democracy. Well, it is guided. It is guided democracy. In the ideal sense of the concept, the masses have a say on who governs them, and have a say on who will stop governing them. Do you have a say? You don't. So we have got KANU here. People will tell you Gideon Moi is leading a party called KANU. Well, that is institutionally, that is the vestige of what was KANU. But the people who are ruling, whether in the government or outside government, those are KANU people. Those are KANU people. So what change are you looking forward to? What change are you looking forward to? Or what change have we effected in the recent past? We're talking about quality in terms of these things. Quality. Just look at the substance of these things, not about personalities. When you look at the personalities, you think there's some change. Just look at the substance, the kernel. You realize, no, you don't really have options. You just run through the motions. And that's what the point I'm making. So I'm not immersed in these things. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying elections should be stolen. I'm saying that once people get into power, it's difficult to get them out of power. And especially if your society is divided. So if you tell me that Kenya is different from Tanzania, Uganda, you're not listening to me, because I told you the Tanzanian business mogul, that's what he cautioned Kenyans against. Kenyan exceptionalism. Do you imagine that you're different from Tanzanians, different from Ugandan? That's what he said. But you're telling me, no, we're different. I will tell you we're not different. We are not different. If we protest tomorrow, elections are stolen, I will tell you that the political elite can only, in include one another in power sharing. Nothing other than that. I mean, you want us to haggle over that? Like we pour into the streets, we want to protest the elections of installing. You want me to give you prices for how that problem will unfold? It will be include some of these people in your government. And that is it. That's how far it can go. So, but people will have been killed, would have been butchered. And what have you? Like, we don't know these things. I'm not being a cynic. I'm just being robust in my reading of what's happening around me. You are being optimistic, but there's no reason to be optimistic. I yield, Eli and Obet.
I think I really like what we say. The truth is, when it comes to the composition of political class, there is really no differentiating factor except for the fact that they tend to be different in different forests, but speaking the same tune or singing the same song. And each of them, once they get an opportunity, they tend to do exactly what the other would do. Fundamentally, all of them come from the same tree. They are all Kanu. And that tells you the ideology, the thinking, the processing is fundamentally the same. So at the core, there's not much to do. Eli, I see Richard has come up here. Give him a minute or two to say hi to people, like the member of parliament he should be. And then we look at concluding the space. Richard, welcome. I don't know if you can hear us.
I believe we lost Richard. He was on the call. He's back. Hi, Richard. How are you doing? Why are you an MP? which constituency are you planning to represent?
I'm not planning to represent as a member of parliament.
In that case, get closer to your mic then.
You mean as a member of parliament to represent as a member of parliament? Well, I think every person has their level.
I mean, you're mostly present. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not calling you a member of parliament.
Yeah, I think every person has got their level of sanity. And somebody rightly put it last year that parliament is the theater of the absurd. The guy was impeached, but be as it may, I've actually heard what the speakers have contributed, and I think to some extent I'd say there's a bit of hope. I won't say it's really hopeless, the situation you're in. I'll just make a very slight statement because I know we are made for time. I think if you look at the Kenyan political class, they know their goose is cooked. And some of the things they're actually doing right now, positioning, re-strategizing, going to extra lengths, spending all that money. I mean, all politics as we know it in Kenya has really changed and transformed. The young people definitely, 254 are a factor. But I think there's a time I made a comment on a space and said, when you play politics in Kenya, using the chessboard of what politicians have been doing, you're actually playing into their game. And the only way the young people can actually stand out is if they actually create their own lane and wavelength and play and influence politics from that end. I don't think the goal is to be absolutist. Because if you look at the pressure that we also have, young people, we must put in a president, or we must influence politics and ensure the next president is one who represents the aspirations of the people. For me, if I look at it, I think that's what politicians survive on, because then they would present a messiah and you'd actually go ahead and vote for that messiah. I think for me, the conversations that young people are shaping, they should maintain that momentum but play a different league. I do not think, even if people say that, we must come out in large numbers and vote and, ensure that in 2027 we install somebody we actually want, but the burden of what we're actually trying to, achieve, and we've said in these spaces, I don't need to preach to the choir, it's actually a more systematic issue. How do we, yes, we can put the right people to actually chart the path to ensure that we actually get in there. But the realities of how I look at politics in Kenya, it boils down to one thing: integrity and finances. It will all boil down to the economy at the end of the day. If you look at how dilapidated the Kenyan economy is and how it's been wrapped, I'm sorry for using that strong word. If we install another president, whoever that person may they be an angel from heaven. How do we plan to have this person storm and actually build that trust and institutional resilience to be able to meet the present realities? And remember, the other people who are actually playing a different league altogether. You know, other nations all over the world. It's a free world out there. It's a global market. So I think our own present realities in Kenya, yes. In every other country, somebody said they will go to Ghana. Every other person that they take care of their own interests. But I think I won't say democracy is dead. Human beings are inherently selfish and greedy, and as long as that intent is always there, then the best we can do is actually put safeguards and guardrails to actually build institutions. So for me, I would even say, as you guys have rightly put it, I think recently I'm actually changing my mind. I'm not even more concerned about the presidency. I'm actually concerned about parliament. Because every other thing that goes wrong in this country is actually solely on parliament. Even if Ruto came back and we actually had 170 plus new MPs with new faces, how many of them would actually not fall for the trap of being bought? Because, I mean, if that goes, we would even have the numbers to impeach the guy and literally put him to his place. So for me, I think the pressure on the young people to deliver, and sometimes the mental resilience to want to put up a fight and create structures that are our own, it's a lonely journey. But, the thing that constantly is being hit on the so-called Gen Z movement that came about is you guys have to deliver, you have to give us your plan, you have to tell us what the roadmap is, what is going to be the end game. And it gets to a point psychologically, it's actually overwhelming. And I remember there's a time we were on a space. Was it on a space? I think Eli would met in some place somewhere, and I think Stella was making a point, and you guys and Obeds were, speaking a bit differently. But the challenge I was actually putting to you guys is: would the Gen Zs and the revelation that happened, would they have the mental toughness to actually weather the storm? Because even the options we're being given right now, I agree, they're not necessarily the best options. But it's what we have, yes. If you look at the present realities. But at the end of the day, are we able, as a young generation who wants to create a new path, willing to actually, start creating that new narrative? Whether we'd have people who've chosen, who'd be in power or not. Because I think Kenyan politics is so toxic to the point whereby if you're actually not at the table, you're always told that you're actually going to be eaten. So to me, I would encourage people on this space and Kenyans of goodwill to actually fight to bring in the right people, to do their best to actually push the best way they can. But I think sometimes when you really have to, go to the path of creating absolute change, you have to have different thinking. For me, I would say if there's a notion of Gen Z should create their own party, there's those discussions, and you remember. I don't want to remind you guys. You probably have that memory. But at the end of the day, even if we created that party as an example, maybe a Gen Z party, and let's say we had 20 members of parliament or of young people and new blood, would we count that as a win? Or would we want to ensure that, we overhaul the whole system all at once? Because at the end of the day, if we check how young people have shaped politics all over the world, in the US specifically, look at the example of New York and Mamdani, and how young people were actually able, to wear out the old folk, and they went ahead and overwhelmingly went ahead and voted for that guy. Whether you like socialism or not, that's actually what they voted for. At the end of the day, it was actually young people who put that man in office. And because their system is a bit different, if you win the primaries, you're as good as you've gotten the ticket and you're going for it. And Cuomo was actually kicked out. So for me, really, I would say I don't want to take back people who have this absolutist mindset, because I understand it as well. I think if young people are able to start making small wins and compounding, because the problems and challenges we have in Kenya are actually too big to probably overhaul and solve. It will take a bit of time to even put that order, because the next president who would come in after 2027 would actually be cleaning up a mess. I don't think there's anything substantive they're going to do to actually change this country around. Probably is, setting back confidence in institutions and ensuring that we're doing things right. So to me, really, Obed, your hand is up. Probably my time is up. I would want us to, be a bit more hopeful, and don't look at the end game of, we have to win it all. Sometimes we have to win small and compound and create systems and structures. And and who actually knows? So for me, really, as I learned, Obeds and Eli, the biggest question is: are we as a people who think differently? That small, clan of people, would we want to be swallowed and compromise and join the bandwagon of the bigger argument, or would we be willing and patient in the next even 10 to 15 years have a project of installing a system? That's how Stalin came into power, whether you like what he did or not. So I think for me, people who've made headway, specifically in the political space, do not expect that we'd have a fire moment in 2027, have somebody, and then that person comes and disappoints, and then we go back to the same cycle. I'd look at the psychological part of it. So for me, I would say, if we really have to change Kenya, in my view, it has to be a 10-year action plan where we consistently and persistently restore what we actually want and keep shaping it. But if you're too overly focused on 2027, I'm afraid whoever would actually come in would have new issues, new challenges. The world is a very unpredictable place, and we'll be coming back to the same place. So I'm sorry I came late, but that's my 2 cents for now.
Thanks for your contribution, Richard, and we're grateful that at least you made time to be able to engage. Reality is, and I think for me, in conclusion, there is no silver bullet on how to resolve the Kenyan problem in terms of how we want to move forward. But at the heart of it is the people who have to determine for themselves sincerely what they want for themselves. We are walking contradictions of what we desire. There's what we desire, and there's what we do. They don't match. You see Kenyans who vote for an individual and complain about the person for 5 years, and then end up repeating the same mistake and complain for 5 years in the next one. So we have to be very clear how we want to be governed, who to govern us, and how they will do it. Until that is clear to us, I think it's an exercise in futility. We'll be doing the rat race that we do, and it wouldn't get us anywhere. However, you can never stop trying, because in trying and failing is how you learn. It's a process of learning. The choice we've taken is that we need to do things in a democracy, air quotes in my view. But then maybe we need to devise another way, Eli, as being governed. Decide whether it's a monarchy with an African touch to it, or something that has a Kenyan element to it that is agreeable to all of us, because governance is about what we choose and agree, and if everybody's on board, it goes. I think that's what I'll say for now. And thank you so much, Eli, for the conversation. As always, happy to make sure that people get to listen. And thank you for taking time, for everybody who's made time to contribute. We're grateful. Sorry that we have to end the conversation, but let's allow for more time to be able to try other things. Eli, remember, I am 43, and this is the conversation for the whole of this year. And I'd like you to put it clear to the audience to understand exactly what we mean. Thank you so much.
Asante sana, Obeds, and definitely it's time for us to call it a night from this side of the platform. Of course, I Am 43 is a campaign for us to be able to push conversations that will remind us we are part and parcel of the country we call Kenya. So you cannot say, hii Kenya tumechoka nayo. This is from all our branches being part of the 43 tribes in Kenya. You have part to play. Kindly do it, and do it with a lot of zeal. We can also inform you that as we try to, push for these campaigns, there's one thing we are doing also called Katiba Yetu Jukumu Letu. And these are just some, snippets of some of the things that we identify through the Constitution, which some of us will be alive to and some of us do not know. And therefore, there's a mini series also called Did You Know? I will invite you to visit our different outlets, that is digital ones, that is through Mizani 254. You'll find some little nicely done graffitos of Did You Know? And the last one we published is titled, Did You Know Privately Initiated Projects Are Not Meant to be Negotiated Behind Closed Doors? Public participation is built into the framework to safeguard transparency, accountability, and public interest. And again, to just steer your mind a little bit, we do this mini series of the Constitution and Matters budget because we are now in the budget making process, even as you await for the final one, which now will come in once the fiscal year closes down at the end of June. And when we start the new one, we will also continue just, creating and curating our conversations among other issues that you and I should be concerned about. And that's why we invite you to become that part of the country you love. Please play your role, and that is guarding and protecting the Constitution. My name is Likian Eli. We want to appreciate you for making time to be here. This has been your Week in Brief. And on behalf of Obeds, everyone else that made this a possibility, and of course you, the speakers and the listeners, we look forward to having you next week as we start off once again on Monday in the bigger picture. Looking forward to bigger conversations. Unfortunately, Sitati was unable to make it tonight, but it tells me watu wa Kenya Power walifanya ile kitu. So if you're having blackouts wherever you are, just know you're not alone. What we can say is hopefully we will not have floods coming because of the lives that were lost. And again, we extend our condolences and our, of course, thoughts to the families that have been affected. Good evening. We continue with the rest of the broadcasting. You can continue watching through our X broadcast, or you can simply listen in through www.kotfm.co.ke.
Your Week in Brief with Obeds Oriku and Eli Likuyani.